This week I'm inspired by the colours of the Georgian period and I've created a very traditional urn. Welcome back. So today we're going to look at a traditional urn, a very classic style urn, and I'm using a base that's come from Country Baskets. So if you're lucky enough to be in the UK and you're lucky enough to be near a Country Baskets, then you might be able to find a classic urn just like this. But any style of base is ideal for this type of arrangement. You can scale up or scale down, make the design, the size suitable for the environment that you're going to be placing it into. The top of this is probably about the size of a dinner plate. So it's a metal base, quite a large size, and I filled it with some green floral foam, and you'll see that I've kept it below the level of the edge of the container. And that's because I don't want to place any materials in at that sideward position, so I don't need any lateral placements. Now my design that I'm going to do today is almost inspired by a sort of posy shape. So it's a round shape, it's an all-round design. You can make an urn that's front facing, but for today's explanation I'm going to do an all-round urn. If you were going to place this on a mantelpiece or on the altar, then you're likely to choose the front-facing version. You can also do this in a triangular form, so you would create that triangular outline. And for that style, you would need to raise your floral foam above the edge of the container so you can get those sideward placements in. But today I'm going to do a really quite a trendy design at the moment. We do these designs a lot for weddings. They might be sitting at the end of the altar. They could be on stands at either side of the top table. But it's a really good versatile design and a great one to be able to do. Now traditionally when we do floral designs, we make the arrangement twice the height of our container. But with a classic urn, it tends to be either half the size of your container. So you almost do like a dome shape on the top, or it's roughly the same size as your container, so almost doubling the style. Depends really on your flower choice. I'm going to start with round flowers. I've got some roses and some very traditional hydrangeas, and these are going to give me that really good structure in the centre there of the design. Now, if you haven't been here before, hello and welcome. My name is Sharon. It's really lovely to see you. My YouTube channel is aimed at flower arrangers or florists that are starting their journey. And you can also find me on a private Facebook group. It's called Sharon Dower. No, it's not. It's called Sharon's Innovations Group, and you'll find that on Facebook. Please don't send me a private friends request because you'll be in the wrong place. If you want to meet and talk to like-minded florists, I'm building a very small community online. So Sharon's Innovations Group, and you'll find me on Facebook. What I'm doing at the moment, a little bit of a base for my flowers. You don't have to use foliage in this design, but I've got this wonderful pistache that I use quite a lot in videos. It's a really good filler and a great textured material to help me cover my mechanic, give me some depth and some visual weight into my arrangement. And all I've done is I've cut the majority of the pieces to the same height. This one's a bit tall on this side here. I've created almost like a cushion. So it's a roundy moundy type selection of foliage just there in the centre. If you don't have pistache like me, then you could use the foliage from the hydrangea. You could use common ivy, bay, laurel, anything. Or if you've got more flowers than I have, then you don't need to put any foliage in at all. But I like to see different textures and different colour combinations working together. So I've gone all the way around, short, stumpy pieces of foliage, just to create a little bit of a cushioned effect there in the arrangement itself. If you had more than one type of foliage, then you could add more in as well. But for now, I'm just going to use that limited selection. And what you might have noticed is that I've placed the materials coming out of my urn. So I haven't angled them down over the side of the container, and you can do that in traditional urns, but for my style of arranging, I've come up from the centre and the sides of the floral foam, and I'm radiating out my stem types. I'm not bringing them out at the side to create that very characteristic triangle shape. Right, now we're going to go in with some hydrangeas. Now you might have seen these in a previous video, or this might be the first time. It's a really sweet, tiny little hydrangea. I wasn't quite expecting them to be this small when I ordered them, but we're going to work with them anyway. It's still, of course, very early in the year for hydrangeas. These are imported in, and I've bought them through the florist auction. And what I've done is I've cut them to a similar size because my urn needs to be that rounded effect. It needs to be almost like a mound of flowers to start with. I create this base structure first, then we add in some line materials to create some height and some more interest. If you haven't got hydrangeas, carnations would work really well. Might be the season for peonies wherever you are. And I've left some of the hydrangea foliage on because that also works really well to give me a contrast in colour and a contrast in texture. As long as the foliage is removed that is inserted into the floral foam, you're going to be okay. Now you see with this one, it's a little bit on the floppy side, so that would work brilliantly if you wanted material to cascade over the side. But for me, I want to create this massed section in the middle. So I'm going to keep it quite low. I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 7. Depending on the size of your container, you might need to use more or you might need to use less. But the 7 work really well there for me, just creating that dome effect. If you have ever been on holiday to Italy or you've had a look at any stately homes, and you'll often see very large and grand urns outside properties. If you've been watching the very popular Bridgerton on TV, you will have noticed that there were lots of urns in the production. And quite often they would have just hydrangea plants in the top. And that is the effect that I've tried to create. I've tried to make it look like the hydrangeas are planted in the urn rather than arranged into that triangle or that circular shape. I've tried to make it look like a plant growing quite naturally in the container. So I'm not going to waste these shorter pieces of the hydrangea. I'm going to use those in there as well. That's going to give me a beautiful contrast because it's a fat broadleaf against the fussier leaf of the pistache foliage. So nothing too technical there at the moment. I've tried to equally disperse the colour so that we've got that lilac-y blue all throughout the arrangement, and wherever you would be viewing it from, you'd be able to see a blue hydrangea. Now next I'm going to introduce another colour. So again, if you've been watching Bridgerton, this is a colour combination that is very much inspired by that Georgian period. Pale Wedgwoody blues, soft and delicate pink, and also quite a fashionable colour combination at the moment for weddings. I've chosen this time to leave the foliage on the rose because I think it's going to add to the look that I'm trying to create. But they're cut almost the same size as my hydrangea, and we're going to keep them low, slightly higher than the hydrangeas themselves, just so that we get some interest in movement and a little bit of depth and recession taking place. But I'm not aiming to make these taller. I'm just continuing to add the flowers in, evenly distributed, so that that soft pink colouring is throughout the arrangement. And if you choose to do the urn where you want to do it front facing, and if you're in a church and you've got a budget, then there isn't a great deal of point in you putting flowers at the back of an arrangement because the congregation aren't going to see it. It's better off spending your money more towards the front of the arrangement. That so far is a beautiful outline shape. I've tried to keep it as circular as I can, following the shape of my container. And it's a strange colour container. I initially bought it for Christmas demonstrations because it works really well with the colour of the mistletoe and the mistletoe berry. But it also works beautifully with this very soft colour palette. So I hope you like how that's coming together. Now, I don't have any trailing material to trail down over the side of the container, but you could use ivy, some ferns, you could use clematis at this time of the year, and that would give a really dramatic effect to this arrangement. But what I'm going to do next is make your eye travel upwards with some linear flower material. So everything we've used so far is the round shape, and now I'm going to introduce some spiked material, initially with the stock, a lilac colour this time, but a really soft colour palette. And I'm going to introduce these more towards the middle so that eye is drawn away from the centre. I'm not doing that triangle shape where we would have equal sides. I'm keeping the rounded shape in the middle with your eye being drawn away from the centre with this spiked material. Now, to bring some more material in that lined effect, what the line material will do is make your eye travel up and then back down, so you have rhythm in the arrangement and an interesting shape to look at. As well as the stock, I'm now going to introduce some of the blue delphinium, and you might have seen this already. I might have already used it in the previous design, and I'm going to do the same. Instead of arranging it sideways, I'm going to position it into the foam so that it's radiating out from the center point, and this is a real characteristic shape and style of an urn. Now, up until now, I've been working on it from the back. I haven't looked at it very much from the front, so I'm just going to turn it round so that I know where I'm positioning the flowers as they go in. And you'll see that the original flower placement, which was the hydrangeas and the roses, were all on a similar height. Now I'm placing in the taller linear material at the same height as one another, so we get this three-dimensional effect taking place by placing the materials in at two different levels. Let's keep working, this time towards the front. I'm going to bring some material on my right hand side, remembering not to squash the materials together too much so that we hide the flowers that are in the design. This one needs to be a bit shorter. And if you think a little bit about the shape that I've created, my focal flowers, my big flowers, the hydrangeas in this case, are almost sitting on the rim of my container, and that quite often is a good place to start. Use your larger flower. Doesn't have to be a hydrangea if you can't get it. Whatever you're able to get hold of this time of the year. It could be chrysanthemums if you're practicing. It could be big bloom chrysanthemums. You might have peonies in the garden, and later in the year, of course, we'll have dahlias, which would work fantastically well in this arrangement. But start with them on the rim of the container and then build up and away from there as you go. Now, my one concern at the moment is that this flower is drooping over slightly. The shape on it is making your eye, it's pulling your eye away from the design in the middle. So what I'm going to do is recut it, turn it around, and then place it in the arrangement so the head is facing in the opposite direction, and then it's not flopping away out of my arrangement quite as much as it was in the beginning. Now we've got one final piece of the delphinium, and I think it needs to come over here in this position here. So I'm quite happy with that at the moment. What I've also going to do, just to give it a little bit more interest, is I kept back 3 of the main roses. This variety is called Pink Athena. It's a gorgeous sort of tulip shaped rose. So what I'm going to do is just spend a little bit of time delicately reflexing the petals of that rose back, and it's going to give me a completely different shaped flower. But it's a big round flower, so it's really going to suit this style of arranging. This again is a very fashionable style at the moment for weddings, where reflexing roses to get the head to open and again to give you a different shape flower in your bouquet. Works beautifully alongside garden roses and those big double, very heavily scented varieties that we're often using. And you can do this with the tulip as well. You can reflex the petals back but isn't that lovely? Doesn't that give you a completely different feel? So this will help soften the quite severe shape of the rose. It'll soften the design just a little bit. And I'm going to have one more towards the middle of the arrangement. You could keep on going and add more flowers into this and make the urn much fuller, but I'm going to finish with just these reflexed roses and the beautiful selection of different colours and different flowers. I'm hoping you really like that design. We've been asked a couple of times for a very traditional urn. If you're enjoying the tutorials and you're benefiting from the information that I'm providing you with, then please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a tutorial, and please share it with your friends and family. You can share the video so lots of people get to see them, and it really helps to build my channel. If you'd like to leave a comment in the box below, please do so. And I will also add a list of the flower material that I've used in the description box below. So thanks for watching. It's lovely to have you back each time I upload a tutorial. And I keep forgetting, normally I upload on a Sunday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Doesn't always happen, but that's my plan. So thanks for watching. We'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.